We're back just like that, and we're live. So that's fucking awesome. Uh, I hope you guys are having a great Thursday. We got a great show planned for you. Hey, man, comics and sweet tea. What can I say? You don't need no money. Don't take fame. Don't need no credit card to ride this train. So anyway, I can't do it like Lewis in the news can, but I came close. So we'll say it was close enough. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Subscribe, you guys, if you haven't already. If you're catching the show later, drop your comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Love to know what you think about some of the topics we'll be covering. We're going to take a deep dive into Jade Lowder's next project. Jade is back. He's got another awesome book for you guys. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to say anything else because this is Jade's baby. So I'm going to let him just spill it all out on the table for y'all tonight. Without further ado, I've got Jade and friends. We got other creators coming on that are part of this awesome book. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to quit babbling and bring these guys on for you.
Thanks for the great intro, Jerry, and thanks for having us on tonight, man.
Man, glad to be sitting down and talking with you guys again, especially Jeff. Hadn't talked to Jeff in a good while. Jade, awesome as always, brother. Jackson, I met right before the show started, so I'm sure this is going to be a great rundown on the book. You guys, they're going to spill it out. So Jade, let's jump right into It's a Horror Show, the found footage anthology, man.
Yeah,
Give us a little breakdown.
You got it. So the anthology is kind of the brainchild with me and Brandon Blocksdorf of Apollo City Comics. We kind of had this idea of what if I ran a horror anthology, and Brandon kind of started giving me some ideas on how that would kind of go and best practices and stuff like that. And it became really obvious very, very quickly that I needed a lot more help. and so Brandon was really kind enough to kind of become like an editor on the project and like a co-creator of it, and has helped me out so much with it, to kind of put the book together and get the word out about the project, so that we could get a really good slew of artists to submit short stories for it. And we opened it up back in April, and then we had it open all summer and closed. And Jackson and Jeff here both submitted amazing stories for the project. We closed it in July, end of July. Brandon and I did a couple of rounds of kind of like picking out and curating the vibe of what we wanted, what was going to work well, and all that kind of stuff. And we ended up with about 18 stories from over 23 creators. And it's the book itself is going to be 100+ pages. So it'll be my first graphic novel size book that I'm ever producing. We kind of came this secret theme. We didn't really spell out the theme at the very beginning. We only gave the clue that it was going to be campy, over the top horror, which is kind of what It's a Horror Show, my brand, is kind of all about. And the idea there was that we wanted to try out a found footage anthology, kind of like movies like VHS and stuff like that. But to do it this way of like all the creator stories would be the found elements within the book. And I think it turned out so cool. I'm super excited everybody's enthusiasm for the project. And yeah, now we're live on Kickstarter. We've got 2 weeks left on the project. We're already past funding goal, and we're moving towards some stretch goals and whatnot now, which is just, yeah, it's the sweet spot. It's right where I want to be. It's very exciting. The stress of like, oh shit, we got to fund and stuff like that is over. And now we're in that sweet spot of like, okay, let's just see how much more successful we can make the project.
Yeah, funding was reaching like what, 3 or 4 days? That was crazy.
It was fast, and we had to put a higher goal on this one simply because the book is going to be a
It's
fat
huge.
book. It's
Yeah.
just a big book, and so we had to put the goal a lot higher. And I was a little nervous going into it, and Brandon essentially held my hand through it and was like, "No, we're good." And I think it was third or fourth day we funded, and it was like, oh, whew, just big sigh of relief. And it was great.
Yeah, man. I couldn't even begin to imagine the logistics of trying to put all this together. That many creators. We're a fickle bunch anyway. I couldn't imagine dealing with all that and trying to put it all together into one anthology. Hey, mwah, chef's kiss. My hat's off to you, man. I'm sure you're going to need a long nap after this one.
Yeah, man.
How long, Jade? I've always been curious. How long did the decision process take? Like when you got all the stories and you getting through them.
Yeah. Brandon and I spent about a week just reading them, just solo. After we closed, we took like a week to just sit with the projects, and for him and me to go back and forth on our own, just to kind of read everything. And then we got together for a pretty long meeting. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 hours of just like us on video call, just like talking the whole thing out. We went through every single one. It wasn't like, oh, hey, here's my short list. Well, there it is. It was like, no, he and I went through every single one. We read them all together in that call and talked through like, but if we pick this one, I don't know that it's going to work really well with this, and that might be too many of these kinds of stories, and so on and so forth. And then there were just the weird ones that are like, man, I don't know what the hell is going on in this story. But some of those were the most fun. Like there are some that I kind of like lament like we couldn't put in the book because they're just either like format was just a little too weird, story just didn't quite fit enough and stuff. But there was really cool stuff. I don't think there was anything that got submitted that was like bad by any means. It was just what was going to fit the best. So after we did that initial kind of like 4-hour call, we had a couple of late submissions that we knew that were coming in that were going to be late, and we're like, okay, we want to see these ones, so we'll wait. And so we didn't really know for about a week after that exactly which was going to be in there. And then Brandon and I spent the next month every Friday having like a 2-hour-long call just to kind of like coordinate everything, put the Kickstarter together and stuff like that. It's been a shit ton of work.
Sounds like it. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we've got enough possibly for a found footage book too. Maybe down the road.
Man, I don't the idea of a sequel, I'm like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I don't know.
Let me sit on that for a little while. Yeah.
Just hibernate real quick and get back into it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
Take a couple day breather and jump right back into it.
Yeah, I mean that's more or less how it's going to be. But honestly, there were a handful of stories that we got, and we're just like, yes, yeah, this is like they set the tone for everything, and made it really easy to figure out like, okay, that means that one's going to be in it, and so on and so forth. Which is really cool to find a couple of stories that like helped us set the vibe, the tone,
kind of set the tone, establish that tone for the whole overall book. I got you. Now, did you do any pages? You did a story in this too, huh?
I did. None of it is seen yet, and we're not kind of showing it just yet. One, I haven't actually drawn it yet. it's written.
It's good reason.
Valid. That's a valid reason.
Yeah, very valid.
But the other reason is because Brandon and I had this idea for a Kickstarter reward. So if people back at the lesser known zombie tier, I will draw you in as a zombie in the kind of story that I'm doing for the book.
That's
So,
awesome.
my story that I'm doing is going to be the found footage element that ties everything together.
Gotcha.
It's a horror show being my property. There's my kind of punk band, my werewolf-led punk band. The basic idea is that they're going to come to an abandoned comic book store, the abandoned lesser-known comic book shop.
Oh wow.
And they're going to find a short box in there of comics, and they're going to start reading through them. And the comics that they find are everybody's stories that have been submitted for the anthology. And then at the end there, we're going to find Mark kind of huddled in the basement with a slew of mindless zombies that he's been creating, the lesser known zombie horde. And everybody who backs the lesser known zombie tier gets to be one of those characters in the book. So there is a reason it's not drawn yet.
I feel like I've been misled in the best way possible. I had no idea it tied in like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't want any of the creators to specifically write a story that was gonna like be something found footage. I was like, what would be the purest way to kind of do this? And I'm like, man, kind of like Blair Witch, where like the crew doesn't really know what movie they're making.
Right.
That makes sense.
That's really cool. So did any of you guys team up? Did you have like a team of artists with a writer, or were these all independent artists / writers doing their own stories, or?
Yeah, sure. So the two that we have in here tonight, so Jackson and Jeff both did creator-owned artist, writer, they're the whole shebang for their stories. But we did have, I want to say 3 or 4 like teams. So we had Nathan Price and Max Flowers did a story. We had Kai Brown and Hannah Williamson did a story. Brandon Blocksdorf and Tanner Ogle have a story in there. And I think there's a couple of more. Lori Jameson, Danny Baram, and there's going to be one more. Oh, Christoph Rodriguez and Michael Turnbull did a story as well. I think that might be all the teams. I'm probably forgetting somebody else, but there's a lot of people in this book, man.
Gotcha. Well, Jackson, if you want to, tell us about your story. What kind of what did you go into?
So yeah, my story is titled Louse Party. Effectively, it's a underage, like high school house party that's broken up by people's head exploding from mutated lice that sprouts out of their bodies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was definitely a shower thought. I was just in the shower trying to come up with some idea for a story because I am illustrator first, not a writer.
Right.
I was just thinking like house party, house. What rhymes with house? Louse. It's like louse is a word, right? And then after the shower was over, I Googled it and was like, sure enough, multiple for lice. I got my bug, and then I was able to make the rest of the story.
That's really cool. Jeff, what did you bring to it?
Yeah, so I did a story actually within the universe I'm going to be working on next, and I've been kind of putting out art for with Finding Kismet. And so I've never drawn anything myself and done it all myself. So Brandon DePillis, who's It's a Horror Story alum, kept telling me, you got to find one of these anthologies and just like submit a story for it. And when you put one out, I got excited, but then you said horror, and thankfully like put campy horror. It's like, I don't do horror. Like, I don't watch the movies. I don't write that crap. And I was like, oh, well,
shit.
Yeah. Then he said campy, and I'm like, oh, it just needs to be gross and funny. I'm like, well, I can probably do that. And so I was like, this will be a good challenge. And that was like my big challenge for last year. Is I did the first story in that universe and kind of made it standalone and put kind of a mild horror humor bent to it. And it was, yeah. So that was a cool first run for me in that. And now we'll be able to build off that, and maybe it can be some fun filler for when I actually get like full issues out or something later on.
Okay, so this will be the first introduction of an upcoming title from you then. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Jake, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like a couple people did that. Or maybe the one that Nate.
Yeah, Nathan Price and Max Flowers. There's the Family Man. This will be like a little sneak preview of a book that they're going to be launching on Kickstarter soonish, too, I think. So you'll get like a little sneak preview in it's a horror show, and then be able to get the full one, down the line here, which is again really cool. And then who else did it? Kai Brown and Hannah Williamson. Their story, it's probably nothing, is the same basic idea that this is going to be something they're doing larger. So here's the first 4 pages of it that are going to introduce introduce readers to this world and stuff like that, and start building some excitement about it. So yeah, that's something that was really cool, that a lot of creators were like, yeah, we just want to kind of test the waters with this story and have that be involved in this project. So that was really cool to get a bunch of those projects involved with this. And I think that we can help kind of springboard everybody else and bring in an audience that are here for other folks, and then now they'll discover Jeff or discover Nate and Max, and then be into those stories when those full issues start to drop. So yeah, it's a really cool thing that happened.
Yeah, that's really awesome to be able to just kind of dip your toe in the water and and see how people are going to react to it, from the feedback you get off the overall book and everything. I'd never, as long as I've been doing this now, I never have really thought about that, to just kind of springboard an idea from an anthology. But it's a no-brainer, man. I mean, it's an outstanding idea. And I have been seeing some of the art. I wasn't sure what it was, Jeff, but I like what I've been seeing. So if that's
nobody knows what it is. Yeah. Top comment is this is weird, and I'm like, okay, well, makes sense in my head. So hopefully it lands.
That's all that matters, man. That's all that matters. You get it out of your head and get it on paper, and hey, I'm telling you, man, I say that all the time. You guys know it now. You get those ideas out there, and your audience, they'll find you. But you got to put the work in. You got to do the grind. You just got to get it out of your head.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to figure that out. I hate I waited so long to finally do it, but now that I've done it and I continue doing it, man, it's like a part of me was missing my whole life. I mean, really, it's so fulfilling to get that stuff out and to hear, man. I've said this too. If I don't sell but 1 or 2 books, are enough to fund a Kickstarter, hey, I'm happy, because I'm getting my book out there. That's the main thing. And people are actually reading my stuff. And
yeah,
there's no greater thing to me than to be able to just put your work out and somebody appreciates it,
Totally, man.
Crooked.
Yeah, I think that, we all want so many people have to have eyes on the project and stuff like that. Or, I'm sure everybody's got their project that I'm like, man, this is like their bucket list project that they'd love to do and stuff like that. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's like you have something that you're passionate about, and you love this story or whatever, and you get it out. And when people are actually pick up the book, however many people that is, it's makes it all worth it, just to have one person be like, oh yeah, I really, really love this. I did Baltimore Comic-Con back in 2023, and then I did it this fall as well for 2024. This one guy came up, and he was, we were chatting about books and stuff like that, and he's just like, oh yeah, I met you last year, and I bought everything. And I was just like, oh, that's awesome. And I was just like, well, here's the next book. He's just like, yeah, I buy it. I already did buy it though. he's like, I was
already got it, buddy.
I was like, I don't think I have anything newer than that. But he's just like, yeah, man. He's like, more than anything, I just wanted to come and tell you how much I like your work. And I was just like, oh man, that just means everything that somebody found my work through that. Enjoyed it enough to then come back a year later and tell me how much he liked it. And it's just like, yeah, it's, we think about interaction and engagement and stuff like that, and I always think about this analogy that like you can have a mile wide reach, like just like hundreds and thousands of people, but that engagement could be this deep. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
just like a very shallow puddle, but a mile wide. Or you could have a very narrow with incredible engagement and people are really into it. And it's just like, I think that getting started, if you just have a few people who are into your project, that's really going to help motivate and keep you moving forward and stuff
Right.
like that. And I think we all want a big readership, but again, that having that little bit, narrower, but really engaged, I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you got to start somewhere. Speaking of that, we got the Crooked Painter in chat. He says, howdy. Crooked Painter, if you got any questions going forward, I appreciate you jumping in chat, but if you got any questions for any of these guys about this book, be sure to, hey, blurt it out, man. We're here to answer your questions. These guys
Definitely.
love questions. They really do. They just itch
I don't
for
know.
it. Maybe Jeff doesn't like questions, but Jackson has just got that look like, please ask me a fucking question already. He just got that look. And
I don't know.
Jade,
I came out of the gates running with mine. I said it full length, full title, everything. Kind of ripping out.
Jade, well, anyway, Jade loves questions. I know. Jade loves questions.
Indeed.
These other guys, hey, we'll break them in easy. Don't shy
Mhm.
away from asking them. We'll warm them up to it and
Yep.
work them through it. But anyway, you guys, I mean, I tell you, it sounds like you got a really cool thing coming. I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna go ahead and mention it right now while I'm thinking about it. Go down in the description right now, and everybody watching later on, just hit the link, guys. I made it easy for you. Jump on this link and support these awesome creators. I would have loved to had all 28 of them on here, but my God, you see we're stuffed with 4 people right here. I but yeah, these guys are awesome. Please support them. Let's say the Crooked Painter, new here. I think I saw one of you on Blue Sky. What book? Okay. Jay's got a book.
Yeah.
It's a horror anthology. It's a horror show. If you hit the link in the description of the show, it takes you straight to Kickstarter where you can look on there. You go to the campaign, read through there. It tells you everything you need to know. How many creators did we have? 23 or 28?
23 creators. And if you go to the Kickstarter, you can also watch, there's a little video that we created while we were in Baltimore, Brandon and I, that has Mark Bernal's amazing acting skills.
Oh, yeah. Oscar worthy. Oscar worthy.
And
what a performance.
Daytime Emmy for sure. Yeah.
At least. I mean, okay, let's be honest. Golden Globe. He'll get a globe
Yeah.
out of it.
Can we keep him in comics and out of Hollywood, please?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, Jackson, I wanted to ask because I knew that like Jeff, this was Finding Kismet's kind of the start of this new world that you're fleshing out. Jackson, it sounds like Last Party is like a one-off, but what else is kind of in the works for you right now?
I've got one story idea cooking up. I'm much better at writing the scenes than I am actually the structure, but I am trying to just push through the blocks because I've learned through struggling, at least with this only 6 pages, that mostly just doing that is 90% of it. Just pushing through the hard shit, not necessarily knowing how to do it, but simply just putting in the work every day to get it written. I'm fine with the drawing part. The writing part is definitely the hardest part for me.
Yeah,
gotcha. What's it? Hey, I'm asking more for myself more than anything. What do you get jammed up on as far as the art and finding your flow through the book?
Oh, this one in particular was interesting because it was the first comic that I've ever actually done with traditional penciling, traditional inking. Any comics that I've done before then were pretty short.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Took a lot to distance myself from the Control Z. But
I knew that was coming.
yeah, definitely.
That's my best friend, man.
Yeah, right. But this one in particular was challenging because Jade had told me about it when he was launching it, which I got a bit of an early start on by like a month of it because you launched it when, Jade?
So. I think we ran into each other like when you were, because you're not in Montana anymore, right?
Nope, I'm in Rochester, New York.
Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think we ran into each other when you were like at an art show, and I spilled the beans that this was happening, and so I think you got a little bit of a jump start.
Which
on the project.
Great that it did me, because I was still trying to ideate while I was in Bozeman. Had the shower idea while we were moving out. After coming to Bozeman or Rochester, getting my desk set up and everything, I finally was able to write out the script, get the penciling and inking and typesetting done with I think within 2 months. Yeah, the deadlines definitely help with the pressure of just being like, you can't figure out the writing stuff. You just gotta wing it, do what you know, and try your best.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was definitely the biggest lesson. But as far as finding the flow with pages and art, that one is tricky. I definitely leaned on a few devices to start, like using captions as like a continuation of dialogue to transition to a scene. I think I did that like maybe 4 times in the 6 pages.
Okay.
But that little rule kind of helped me keep the story going and figure out the flow, but definitely still learning.
Gotcha. So do you use a lot of thumbnails, or do you just go straight to the final word?
Oh yeah. Actually, I probably even have it around my mess at a desk somewhere. But I definitely created a giant sort of pasted style thumbnail with longhand writing in it. Oh yeah, here we go. Full of like sticky notes and those little bottom line ones.
Man, that's so much more intense than mine. So
you put so much more work into it than I do.
I know. I feel silly now. I feel so damn silly. This is what happens when you try to do things traditionally.
One more question. You said Rochester.
Yeah.
How far do you live from the X-Mansion?
Ooh.
Horrible
Pretty sure it got blow up. Nobody knows.
Horrible question. Horrible joke. I know. Terrible. I do want to mention the Crooked Painter said you had me an anthology backed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
And hey, tell your friends. I'm telling you, these guys are incredible. Tell everybody you know. Tell your enemies. Tell your enemies about the book. Hopefully, you don't have any enemies, but tell everybody.
Tell the
these guys. Yeah, exactly. We've got one guy that lives in the X-Mansion. Could be a possible X-Man. He kind of reminds me of Bobby. He could be Iceman. He did one of the stories. Anyway.
You gotta explain why. You think he's Iceman.
I gotta know why I'm Bobby. I like being Omega level, but why am I Bobby?
I don't know. You got a Bobby vibe. You got a Bobby vibe, Jackson. That's what it is. I mean, people give off an aura, man, and you have a Bobby Iceman aura.
Put that on your tombstone.
Oh,
that I'd be curious then if Jerry, if you've been holding back, if I have a particular, not to say X-Men, but just like vibe in general of character, because I've gotten this from another person that someone told me that I have a they compared me to what's the character's name from Harry Potter that's like the professor who turns into a werewolf, that guy.
Oh God, Professor Lupus.
You see it?
Lupus.
I
legitimately
am fucking perplexed about this, and
I see it now. As soon as you said it, I see it.
Should have just shut my mouth.
And we also have Professor Lupus from Mary. No, I do though. I totally see it. I don't know what it is.
You're gonna have to cosplay the next con, Jade.
Yep, Lupus.
There you go.
Oh man, when Mark and I did Baltimore the first time, the actor who played Neville Longbottom was there. And he was signing autographs, and like where our table was, if you know like the Baltimore layout and whatnot, Artist Alley is right next to like the signings, like where people are signing autographs and stuff. And so Mark and I were at the very end. We're like right there.
Everybody's coming through. Yep.
And so anytime Neville Longbottom would go and sit, like the floor would empty and everybody would just go to like get, you know, signatures or a hug or whatever from Neville. And we'd be like in the middle of trying to like sell to people, you know, and they would just like, oh, look, Neville's here. We got to go. And like Mark
throw their book at you.
Yeah. Hey, that's what I would have been doing. I'd have been throwing books out in front of, oh, I'm so sorry. I dropped this. Look at this awesome book. You know, you know, you want it. So Neville endorsed all of it.
I had like a vendetta against Neville Longbottom and cons. It's just.
If you can get him to sign a book, then you could probably mark up the price, though.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's the way.
There you go.
But would he sign it as Neville Long, like not his actor's name, just like his character? Wanted to sign this as Neville.
He could have signed it as the actor's name and then put AKA Neville Longbottom.
That'd work.
You probably would have had to pay for 2 signatures, though.
Yeah, probably.
You know how they are nowadays. I get it, though, man. I mean, they you know, they're so poverty stricken with the movies and all. You know, hey, you got to make ends meet somehow.
You gotta rip off the fans any way you can. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff or Jackson, do either of you guys do or have been doing cons or anything like that?
I am still personally quite new to any of like the comic and con scene, so I'll probably be hitting you up, Jade, once I get more of my own thing written, so I can actually go to that. Especially now that I'm on the East Coast, at least I can hit the East Coast.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, being in Montana, man, it really for doing cons, it really sucks.
I gotta love airfare.
And Jeff, you're out in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. And then, so last year I did a Kickstarter for another book I work on with a friend, Tales of the Mariner. So we did a few shows here locally, one in Wisconsin, 2, and kind of taken this year off, mostly because we had a few people come back at different shows and be like, do you have the next one? Kind of like you said, which is touching, but in a weird way, I'm like, oh God, I can't keep coming back here. I think everybody's seen it. So like, I'm just like, showing up like, you guys,
same old book. Hey, I got that same book. Yeah.
So that was another like kind of awesome part of being part of this anthology is I have like more material for a table. So I'll probably only do one show this year. I was going to do the bigger one here in Minneapolis called Twin Cities Con. That's where usually it's kind of like our San Diego, the Minnesota version of the San Diego Comic Con, where we get some celebrities and stuff. And generally speaking, it's really a pretty expensive show.
Gives hot dish. Yep. Everybody gets hot dish on your table, and yeah.
You know, we're not that nice. I don't understand. Like, I was
bring you a warm towel for your face before the show starts.
We're just all extremely Catholic, so we just we don't say mean things to your face. We just talk about you behind your back, and then
potatoes, baked mac and cheese at the function.
Oh God, yeah, you gotta have mac and cheese at the function, and the crooked painter said and cheese. So he knows. He knows.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Get your art on a dish towel or something.
When is Twin Cities Con?
I'm pretty sure it's in November. I'm meeting up with Brandon DePillis. We might. We're going to talk on Sunday and get some coffee and maybe talk about splitting a booth because I think it's like $300 in Artist Alley, so it's like quite a bit.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. I feel like they just like ratcheted that up for pretty much across the board in the last like 2 years of me doing cons. Like it was not that bad, and then all of a sudden it just like. It's 300, 400, some of these tables.
It's ridiculous, man. It's especially, I think it's been pretty much in the last year, 18 months. Everything's just went up. Crooked Painter, he's giving respect to the Midwest, Jeff. I know we're giving you shit, but he's giving you respect. He throws a pound your way. So
There you go.
hey, I'm from Mississippi, man. We still got wooden fucking shoes, so I can't say. I had somebody ask me that one time. I remember we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, to Jonesboro, which is pretty much part of the greater Atlanta area now. But that was back in the early '90s. And I remember my first day at school, man. They were like, "You're from Mississippi, don't y'all still? Y'all, you don't wear wooden shoes?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like,
That's fuck wild too.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
wooden shoes.
I'm from Mississippi. I'm not fucking Dutch. I mean, come on.
I was about to say, like, were they just completely, like, just misconstrued?
Flabbergasted, buddy.
You guys
Flabbergasted.
have tulips and fucking windmills all over the place.
Yeah. We make cheese. That's what we do. We make cheese and we carve our shoes. That's what we do now. It's insane. What are shoes? I'm from Mississippi. Exactly. He gets it. The Crooked Painter said, "What are shoes? I'm from Mississippi." No doubt, man. I just discovered them. I actually went out of state and they had them. I was like, "Oh, these are nice." You don't, especially walking on gravel.
You probably got some great arches.
Oh man. So I'd be curious. Jeff and Jackson. I've been on Jerry's show a number of times and talked influences and stuff like that. I'd be curious to know, like, both of you guys, like, who are some like comic influences and stuff like that for your own, both stories and also like just art styles, just kind of in general.
You read my mind, Jay.
I feel like I've been going first a lot, so if you want to take the floor on this one.
Oh man. Okay, so I would say for art wise, for a long time all they did was ink. So that was just like my role in the comic creating process. I have a buddy Nolan who did pencils, and ever since college I was like, you draw, I'll write something, and I'll do the inking, because he never wanted to do it. So a lot of my actual art influences are inkers, and especially inkers who turned into artists themselves. So like right now, like Jonathan Glapion is probably like the top person I view as like an influence for me, and he's drawing. I don't like.
Really?
I like Scott Williams, but like I don't. You're missing my generation. I kind of hate '80s comic book art, to be honest with you.
Oh my god, what a high!
I know. I'm not.
Damn.
I was in the woods when I was a kid. Like, I don't like 80s music. I don't like 80s movies. Like, I don't like 80s anything. Like, I can't even stomach it. Some of it's good. I watched Goonies like 4 years ago. It was all right.
And you came in swinging on a found footage anthology.
That's what I'm telling you. Minnesota people are just not that nice. Like, we don't actually.
Minnesota people, they're not nice people, and they hate Scott Williams.
Dude,
you heard it here first.
Hot takes only.
No, Scott Williams has got like amazing like technical skill. And to be honest with you, it's just that overhatching at times, like not necessarily.
I'll agree with that.
Like I love the skill there, and I practice that sort of stuff quite a bit. But yeah, so like Jonathan Glapion, and then in terms of like right now, I forget how to say his name. But he drew the book Coda and Step by Bloody Step. Yeah, something like because
that's a beautiful book.
It is.
I'm liking the transition, like in my head, like visually, I'm transitioning more to like watercolor type thought thinking and less line. But that's mostly because I don't know how to draw shading yet. So, do
any of us really know how to do shading? I mean, come on, it's all you're shooting in the dark anyway.
No one does. The guy who did the Mariner, he's really good at that. Yeah. And I asked him for advice, and he's like, I don't have any. So I was like,
thanks a lot, dude. Appreciate it.
Thanks for nothing. But yeah. And then in terms of writing, I'll be honest, like I write out of necessity. So I really could get advice from you all. So I don't want to draw other people's stuff, so I just write my own things. But I'm not here like reading books on how to do it. So maybe Jackson's got great writing advice for me.
I'm being blind. I don't know.
Shower thoughts.
Yeah,
More
shower
shower
thoughts
thoughts.
are good. Walks with no music help for sure. Doing like repetitive activity with no other stimulation. I remember summers in college, I would work on wine trucks because all temp work in my little corner of Walla Walla, Washington, which is wine country, is all wine jobs.
Wow.
So hours of being in a trailer putting bottles of wine into boxes. You come up with a decent amount of scenarios in your head just to make time go.
Yeah. So Jackson, what about you? Influences and art style, writing, or what have you?
Well, it's funny that you brought up Matthias Vergara because I fucking love his work. Yeah, Step by Step is a beautiful book. Another one that was kind of a close similarity that was almost an adjacent jump is James Herron. I'm very saddened by the fact that he's so elusive and a hermit because I keep trying to find videos of him drawing and there's like one that I can never find. It doesn't have that much.
Rumble is
love Rumble.
Just fantastic, and I love it. Again, it's another great like campy, over the top. I mean, if your main character is an anthropomorphized scarecrow possessed by an ancient god, you've got me. I'm there. I'm sold.
Love Rat Track. But yeah, James Herron is another one. I found a more obscure one. I guess it's not that obscure, but it was in a bin dive, and he unfortunately, I think, passed away, I believe, in 2020, 2018. It was rather recently. But the late, I want to say it's Jason Pearson. He was writer and creator of Body Bags.
Yeah.
I saw like a bunch of drama about like a Kickstarter that he was doing for a continuation of it and everything else. But no, I mean, his work that he did on some of that was phenomenal.
It was, he did some incredible work. I suck with names, and but as soon as you said Body Bags, I instantly knew who you were talking about because that work just, that stuff gets burned in, man.
It does, yeah.
That's super cool.
Let's see. The Crooked Painter said, "In the woods in the '80s." I get it in the woods.
I feel like we need to hang out.
Where you find the best porn. So the Crooked Painter is your spirit animal, Jeff? Okay.
I guess, yeah. Brother from another mother there.
Yeah. K-pop junkie says, hey. Okay. I thought you were taking it. Okay. Anyway. Love that porn in the woods, you guys. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. But if you get tired of the porn in the woods, it's a horror show. How'd y'all like that? It's a horror show. Yes, it's a horror show. The found footage now on Kickstarter. It's right there in the description. I put the link in. Just pop that. Go straight to it. Crooked Painter says, I miss the 80s. Hell, I miss the 80s, you guys. I mean, I do. It was such a simpler time. It
just caught the end of it.
Yep. 80s were the best, man. The best movies, some of the best music. I hated it, Jeff.
I wouldn't even know. I
think that was a thought, man. It probably was a thought. Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, like despite Jeff's misgivings, I will say there are some truly delightful things that came out of it. That, like, especially on the, if you're looking big picture mainstream stuff, I will be the first one to say hair metal, not my bag. Like 80s pop,
loved it.
Not my bag.
Loved hair metal.
But you start digging below the surface a little bit, and you get to like pulp classic movies of the 80s. Like I've said it before, and I'll say it again on this same podcast. My favorite movie of horror movie of all time is Return of the Living Dead, because it is just
a good one.
So bad.
It's pretty bad, but it's still a good movie.
It's 100%. Yes, it's so good.
It's so bad it's good. It's
Yes.
one of those. It's just so bad it's good.
The acting is all over the place. The punk rock that's in there inexplicably. Like, why is the medical supply warehouse next to the mortuary, which is next to the graveyard? Like, just why all big plot holes that never really get answered. It's why
distracted with the absurdity. I
You
was
had
just
a-
thinking.
You had a lot of horror like that from the 80s, though. Do you remember Night of the Comet? Remember
I
that
do.
one?
Yes.
I loved that movie,
I
man,
did
and it
with,
was
like, Night of the
it was
Comet.
all over the place. Same
Another-
thing. Acting was, but the concept, it was a really cool concept.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. It was like 80s had a lot of like concepts. So like, let's just do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's go with it.
And I feel like we get
They weren't
so
so fucked up on cocaine. They were like, "Hey, man, I got this great idea. We're gonna have a comet."
That's that true
Like,
punk mentality.
sure.
Fuck it, we'll do it.
Yeah, fuck it.
totally.
Let's make it.
But yeah, I mean, so tons of movies from the 80s. I literally, before this call, I'm working on new pages for a book right now, and I was watching Maximum Overdrive while I was working on it. And if you've never seen Maximum Overdrive, oh man, it's Stephen King's only directorial credit, and it's rough.
Yeah,
But
I'm
But it's
hearing
about
rumors
possessed
there's a remake
truck.
coming.
shit.
Is there? I
I'm
don't know if
hearing
I'll
that.
ever-
Yeah, I'm tired of remakes, though, man.
Yeah.
I really am.
Ooh, you know
How
what
would
I'm
they ever
excited
get the rights for the
28 years
Green Goblin truck? It's
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
20 years
how would
later.
they ever do that? They can't. They couldn't possibly.
You were
28
saying
years.
28 years?
Yeah,
That's what
what
you're
about
looking for?
28
28
years?
28 years later getting made. I'm excited for that.
Yes,
I
that
did see that.
that looks
that
I would
awesome.
be I would be stoked if it was a vampire movie out of nowhere instead of a zombie movie.
That would be
It's
crazy.
like it's
That
so
would be-
far
yeah,
from
it's
the
like,
original. We have a new problem.
We got you.
Yeah.
You thought we were zombies, dumbass. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think you need to call them right now and tell them, go ahead and start the reshoots. We're making it
Yeah.
vampires.
Trash the script.
We're bringing back Cillian Murphy, and it turns out
Yeah, he's a vampire. That's
he's
how
a
he survived
vampire.
it.
It's like he just sits in a chair with like a really mad expression on his
Yeah.
face the entire film. That's just all he does.
Yeah.
Get him to the Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I'll be honest. You guys are not selling 80s for me.
Man, you just gotta try it.
That's fair.
It
I
wasn't
do, I
about
do.
the acting. It wasn't about the acting. Just go.
My
Don't
whole
go for
family
the
and I.
acting.
My whole family and I do New Year's Day couch bed day, and for a long time, all it was show Jeff movies from his youth that he should have watched already. And I mean, yeah, I've seen The Goonies and Alien recently, so yeah,
That's
I'm hitting
late
some of the
70s.
highlights.
Yeah, late 70s on
79.
Alien.
That was 79.
Well, we
Yeah.
did Aliens technically, and
Oh,
then I
no
went back
idea.
and watched Alien, which I liked Alien better, honestly.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right
I
there with you.
love Alien. I love the original. A lot of people tend to gravitate towards Aliens, but Alien was my favorite out of all of them. And
The
I like the
suspense
new
is
one.
better, like the
I like the new
suspense
one.
horror. Oh, the new one is good. Yeah, I saw the one too. Gross at times.
Yeah,
A little too gross.
Yes.
Little too gross for Jeff, but
I wasn't too crazy about the baby alien thing at the end of
Yeah.
my
Careful now.
just this
Spoiler
big
alerts.
creepy thing. Yeah, hey,
to our one person. Here.
yeah, it's been
I don't wanna
out
wreck
for
it for
2
him.
years, but we don't want to spoil it.
No, we don't. No.
Crooked Painter says Kroll and the Ice Pirates. Both of those were
Oh.
awesome movies. I love the
Yeah.
Ice Pirates.
Oh, I forgot.
Let's
How could
see.
you
He's
forget
got
about Kroll?
Return of the Living Dead 3, masterpiece. Halloween 2. Oh yeah. You got so many. Hey, Dan
Ice
Price is in here
Pirates.
too. Yeah, Ice Pirates. Awesome movie.
I remember
Ron
the-
Perlman's
I
in
remember
it.
the exact
Yeah.
moment.
Put that on your watch list. Ice Pirates. You'll
need to
thank
watch
us
that.
later.
I
What
remember the
movie,
exact moment
Jackson?
when up. Oh, I remember the exact moment when Halloween dropped off for me, and it was, I think, when they had like the weird CGI scene of like the water like bringing him to life or some shit again. That was it for me. I think that was in the third one, possibly. I saw that.
Possibly.
You got to think though. I mean, without the '80s, we wouldn't have Indiana Jones. I mean, come on, you guys. You didn't like Indiana Jones?
I mean, I'll be honest. That one with Shy was pretty terrible.
Okay, all right. We all.
All right, I'm gonna go,
I
guys.
thought we all agreed that one didn't actually happen. Like we just
No,
saying,
I do not know what you speak of.
Yeah.
There were
Mhm.
3 movies. There was Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. I vaguely remember that one. It tends to fade from time to time. And then you got The Last Crusade, which I absolutely loved. That should have
I
been
kind
Sean
of like the
Connery.
newest one though.
The new one, the newest one wasn't horrible.
I
It
It had
felt,
just-
its moments. Yeah.
I feel the opposite. I feel like the most new one made Crystal Skull feel a little more palatable for me.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
No.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if
That's
it's
a hot
nostalgia.
take.
I don't know if it's nostalgia and I got to go back and do a rewatch, probably. But
Watch them in order.
yeah.
You'll want to cut the last 2 completely out of it altogether.
Yeah.
I will say though, for Indiana Jones fans and whatnot, over the holiday break, that because I'm a teacher and stuff like that, I don't get to play video games a whole lot because I'm just working all the time during the school year. So my breaks are when that's my video game time. And so I played the new Indiana Jones game, and my God, is it worth it? It is so.
Oh.
I've
damn
heard
good.
it. I've heard good things.
It is.
I haven't
it's
played
so
it yet.
Worth it. Yeah, Troy Baker does an amazing job as Indiana Jones, like emulating Harrison Ford's.
Where does it
speech
pick
and-
up in the story?
It's pretty much right after Raiders, I think, is when
Okay.
it's set. So like you begin you're like going in that jungle and you go into the temple and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's like a flashback, and then you start in the story. So it's like pretty much right after Raiders, which is it's brilliant. It's a wonderful game. Really, really good.
Hell yeah.
What's the name of the game?
Indiana Jones.
In the Great Circle. Yeah.
The Great
The
Circle.
game.
I always get super
Indiana
wary of AAA
Jones,
stuff.
the
I'm not
game.
gonna lie.
What was
games
that?
are always, AAA games always make me super wary, especially in recent years. So I'm glad to hear that at least the Indiana Jones one has been super good.
It was dynamite. Yeah.
I tell you, I used to be huge into games, but the last one, I haven't picked up a controller in a while. The last one I played was Ghost of Tsushima.
Hell yeah.
Love that game. That game was absolutely fucking incredible.
Mhm.
I've heard that.
I know they're working on a sequel too. I don't know when do you know when it's supposed to hit, Jackson?
Shit, I don't.
They're
Cool.
Yeah, they're working on a sequel to it. Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's going to be a big one.
Okay.
Well, I think you should get an advanced copy for that promo right there. Who do we got to call to get you in?
Hey, if you're watching, the people that made Ghost of Tsushima sponsor this show and send me an advanced copy to the second one.
Hell yeah.
And Scott Williams, I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything I said.
He meant everything he said, Scott.
Just gets out to the greater comic book community,
You do too much fucking hashing, too many hash marks. Anyway,
I mean, I guess that is also an interesting conversation point. Is there any artist out there? I mean, you can either name names or you can just allude to that you're just like, man, not for me, like not my jam. As much as we talk about like these are my jams, what's not? my
yeah,
jam?
Oh, I got a writer that is not my jam
Oh.
that generally makes everybody upset. And that is Robert Kirkman.
Ooh.
Oh,
I cannot stand his dialogue for whatever reason. I think he's a good concept guy and like if you look at the story, like I've read a lot of his stuff, like Walking Dead and Invincible, like as the story of it is really good, but like reading through a talking scene, I just
Horrible.
can't do it.
So
it's just
you're saying basically that he's the George Lucas of comics.
yeah.
Great at overall story elements, but just sucks at dialogue. And like Harrison Ford said, you can write this shit, but you can't read it, George. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just never really enjoyed the actual like the heavy dialogue stuff. Not for me.
I'm trying to process that after reading Walking Dead and Invincible from Kirkman.
I get it. I totally get it.
At
That
least
makes absolute sense to me. Yeah.
The first issue certainly, but I think as other people took over, definitely improved.
I'll give you one. This is a hot take. And I feel like he's too dialogue heavy. Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, interesting. That's interesting. I have a not a big Brian Michael Bendis story, but I have a minor one. So I did Rose City Con this last year as well, and so where my table was, like, I was kitty cornered to this artist that like was a friend of Brian Michael Bendis that he was clearly like trying to like bolster up and stuff like that. But the dude's book was like an AR book. It was like an augmented reality. I know it's the pokeyest of ideas ever. And so Brian Michael Bendis was like, "This is such a great idea," and I'm like, "I don't think is it? Yeah, is it?"
Hey, like, wait, hold on. Was it like, I'm just trying to narrow down the concept. Is it just AR goggles, but then it's just paneled book, or
yeah?
Is it?
No, it's like AR on your phone. So it would be like you would download it, and then like as you walk through space, you read the book.
Oh.
And every time you look behind you, there's Michael Bendis.
Saying, buy this book. Buy this book.
So it's just like, okay, maybe the concept is something, but the art, like, I won't put this. I don't even remember their name, but like the art was like, totally, definitely didn't match like what this product could potentially be. But like, so I'm sitting right there all weekend, 3 days. I've made eye contact with Brian Michael Bendis like at least 4 or 5 times, throughout these 3 days, and I like have started to be like, hey, and he just like would like ghost and shoot the other way, and I'm like, all right, man. I got
what kind of eye contact are we talking here? It probably wasn't heavy enough.
I guess not. I should have been fluttering my eyelashes a little bit more.
Since making eye contact with them, have you noticed your writing suffer at all, or has it been pretty consistent?
I missed that whole question. One more time, Jackson.
I was saying, since you made eye contact with them, have you noticed your writing suffer at all, or has it been?
No.
Does everybody sound like the same character?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he put a curse on me? It's possible. It's quite possible.
Oh wow.
No, I mean, I totally get that about Bendis's work, though. I don't know. I have a soft spot because when I started reading Bendis, it was during his Daredevil run, and it was with him and Alex Mayleave, and I really loved Alex Mayleave, and so I've got a bit of a soft spot. But I will say, reading those books in high school and wanting a little bit more adventure, a little bit more, just pep up the books a little bit more. Brian Michael Bendis does get very wordy, and he gets very long in the tooth about certain things. So I can't concede. I do see that a lot. Yeah.
He made a bet. We're talking about the same guy that made a bet with his fellow creators that he could have a bet that it would make the top 10 bestseller list, and he would do the entire issue with them sitting around talking. I can't remember the issue, but he did it, and yes, it broke the top 10. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate Bendis by any means. I mean, the dude's incredible, but yeah, he's a little wordy. He would kind of just get in there and just, hey guys, what are you doing? We're gonna have a sitcom for this issue, and it's basically just going to be, just us hanging out, eating falafel or whatever that was at the end of
Oh,
Avengers.
the Avengers, not
Yeah.
shawarma.
Yeah,
shawarma.
Shawarma. That, yeah. Shawarma, my bad. That was basically a nod to a whole issue of a Bendis comic.
All right, I got my hot take. I got mine. I think.
Here we go.
I thought about it for a minute here.
All right.
This maybe is not as hot of a take because I think that people are generally split on this guy, anyways. I'm not overly fond of Stan Lee's writing.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I think that like
Oh.
what he did for comics
I'm
as
not
a
touching.
personality, as a personality is huge. But I think that he fucked over Jack Kirby really, really bad.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally-
I think
yes.
that like in terms of the pantheon of creators, we should be celebrating Jack Kirby as the main writer versus Stan Lee. Because if you really understand the Marvel method of writing, it was Kirby. Kirby did that.
Mhm.
Kirby is
Yeah.
the one.
I'm
Stan
100% behind that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm just not as big of a fan. Like I think Stan Lee as the face, as the personality of comics, like he really uplifted the art form in a lot of ways. But as a writer, I just never really connected with his writing.
Right.
I think that the artists he worked with did the heavy lifting.
Okay. So Dan
Thank you
says,
behind that.
I'm with Jade. And Dan goes on to say, I'm with Jade like a motherfucker. So the Crooked Painter made a comment about your business story. He said, did you lick your lips? So, but anyway,
You all have way better ideas. Next time I'm in a show and I see Bendis, it's going to be very illicit, very fast. We're just
you need to look at him and just pull out your car mix. Start
Do the leg
put on
cross.
some Goodbye Horses, and there you go. Yeah.
Hell yeah! Just start doing the dance and everything. I'd fuck me. Would you fuck me?
This feels like a pretty safe space, and we've also some pretty hot takes. So I'll go ahead.
Mm.
Mine.
Let's do it.
Hey, just put it on the table, Jackson.
I don't care much for Jim Lee's art.
Hey, okay. Woo. Why?
think that-
Why?
Yeah, go for it.
So
Go for it.
technical execution is awesome. It's something about the way that he draws faces, and I think it's more just indicative of like that kind of earlier 80s style of just like that hyperrealism that was coming with David Finch as well. But just something about the way that Jim Lee does it. At least like faces and characters, there's specific parts for me that are off. A lot of environmental stuff that I see, like the way he renders a lot of things, is awesome. But there's just like it's a weird stiffness, I feel like sometimes.
I agree with that. Jim, let me comment on this because Jim was my main guy coming up reading comics, him and McFarlane and all these guys, but Jim especially.
Mm-hmm.
I over the last several years, I've come to completely agree with everything you just said. There is a stiffness to it. Yes, he draws awesome action panels, but there's this, for lack of a better word, there's a looseness missing from it. I mean, they really are stiff. It's not very fluid.
Yeah.
You get this big stoic pose, he's throwing the punch, and you don't really, I totally get that. Completely stiff.
Mm-hmm.
So who would you say kind of counters that in today's work?
Oh, I like that.
It's the exact opposite. Yeah, who flows now?
Today's work, I mean, I'll bring it back probably again to like James Herron and Matthias Bergara, like just going back. But James Herron especially, in a lot of the way that he draws action, especially reading Ultra Mega, just the way that he uses implied action, like it's a very heavy draw in the best possible ways, I think, on a lot of shonen manga. Like there is such a way that he sets up a lot of action panels that just the flow is all there. I think he combines the best parts of the flow and action in shonen manga with the character structures and design of like how do I always forget his name? The literal creator of Hellboy,
Magnola.
Magnola. I always forget Magnola. I don't know how. It's a unique enough name.
Yeah,
I love Magnola. Huge fan of
Yeah.
Magnola.
Yep.
Again, I'm just,
He doesn't
I'm just
get
name-
enough credit.
I'm just name dropping this whole fucking thing, this podcast, and being like, I met him, but I met him.
No shit.
Rose City.
Awesome. How is
The
Magnola?
eye contact worked that time, huh?
It's
It
like
worked. It worked.
he broke out. Hey, he broke
I'm
out
not
the
everybody's
comics.
cup of tea, but
I'm yours, big boy.
Mignola is like the nicest dude ever. He gave me some really nice thoughts. He even gave me a pull quote for the breakup, which was
Oh,
really
wow.
cool.
Oh
So
shit!
he looked at it and stuff like that, and he was just like, "Man, you're really mean. Your stuff is way more brutal than mine." And I'm like, "That's my just write that on my tombstone. We're good. Like, I'm out. That's the peak.
Yeah.
You can't get any better."
I've hit the
Um,
mountaintop. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Mignola, totally. I agree. He was when I was really starting to think of how I would want to make comics. He was the person that made comics feel doable, not in a sense of like saying his art's like simple or whatever. Just as a creator, I was like, oh shit! Like, you don't have to be a Marvel guy, a DC guy. You can do it your own way. And he's
Right.
got such a style that is like his own thing that it shook me out of that idea of like, you've got to do it like one of these schools of thought. It's like, no, you could do it like Mignola does it. And it was super eye-opening when I first like saw his work, and I've just been a mega fan ever since with his stuff. In terms of people who have the flow, I'd want to throw out Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yep.
yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to say that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure that he gets, a lot of cavalcades from folks as well. But I think in terms of his flow, his, your ability to, whenever you pick up anything that he's done, there's a looseness, there's a sense of just like fluidity in his characters and his movement. He plays with time in really, really good ways. Yeah. He and Frank Quitely, I think, are two sides of an interesting
Frank's awesome.
coin of like, in terms of like that fluidity, that kind of flow. Whereas like Daniel Warren Johnson just feels like it just is much more off the cuff and whatnot. Frank Quitely feels like much more like composed, but there's still a fluidity in the way that he does it. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now I'm going to throw out one. Is probably not maybe on all your radars, but Nick Klein. He drew Thor for a while after the Jason Aaron run ended, and now he's on Hulk, I think.
I think I
Um,
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Is it-
kind of
is it
like
is it the run with Hulk right now that's got like all the cryptid shit going on?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he drew that really awesome James Blake Thor story where like not James Blake, that's an artist. Who's the alter ego of Thor? The Dr. Blake something.
Oh God.
I forget.
Shit.
Somebody got to know. Any which way, but the human form of
Yeah.
Thor, they did a whole storyline where he becomes a villain, and he drew that, and it's really cool.
That sounds
But
awesome.
that guy's art is very, very kind of Daniel Warren Johnson-esque, but probably a bit more towards like Marvel
Thomas
ways
Blake.
of doing things.
Dr. Thomas Blake.
Thomas
Dan,
Blake
Dan just threw it out. Appreciate it, brother.
is definitely not the the musician I threw out.
No, that's a crazy good pull.
Don
Like, he
Blake.
definitely
No,
combines,
he's trying to guess. That wasn't it.
It's Donald
Oh.
Blake, yeah, Dr. Donald Blake, yeah.
Donald
Right?
Blake. Yep. We think that sounds good. Any Blake.
Close.
Bob Blake. Dr. Bob Blake.
Funny. Yeah.
As far as artists go, for me, probably now, Mark Silvestri's older stuff.
Mm.
Not his newer
Mm.
stuff. I'm saying Marvel work because he got a stiffness
Really?
to his work when he went to Image with Cyberforce. They all kind of got that when they started Image. It was more about just these big stoic poses and everything. They lost a lot of their fluid stuff to me when they did that. It was all about the one panel instead of building, throughout and flowing through the story.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, that loss
Yeah.
of having like sort of writing capability when it was all
Yeah.
artists. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, there. Now that you mention it, Jerry, there were a couple of even in the early 2000s, Mark Silvestri, when he did do some more Marvel stuff, he came back for like a run on X-Men.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was some cool stuff that he was doing.
Yeah.
I still like the way he does Sentinels, like the way that he draws Sentinels. There's
Yeah.
something about that is like
Yeah.
iconic with that kind of interpretation and his line work. I will say though, in terms of like the overly heavily hatched, he's right there as one of the
Oh, yeah.
main.
Yeah.
It's
But he's
so
more of
much.
a pure artist too, though. I mean, you look at his line work and stuff like that compared to a lot of artists today. I mean, you see the squiggly lines, you see a lot of the other stuff where the guys that come on and ink his stuff took a lot of that out. I mean, he's more of a pure artist.
Oh, that brings up another good one for me. Just thinking pure artist, Ashley Wood. I don't know.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I don't know if I know.
he did a short run on I think a Tank Girl issue, if I recall, in like some anthology potentially. But he's got some really good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's definitely an artist, sort of artist in that regard. Fine art background.
Yeah, totally. It also then makes me think of like, guys like David Mack and Paul Pope and like even a little bit of like Jeff Lemire and the kind of stuff that especially like May's book and when he gets to be a little bit more poetic with what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, guys, I hate to wrap this awesome thing we got going up, but anyway, look down in the description, you guys. One more time, look down in the description. I made it easy. Put the link down there. Pop that link up. It takes you straight to it and back this awesome book by these incredible creators. You won't be sorry. Jade, what? Anything you want to throw out there? Your handles where they can follow everything you got going on?
Sounds good. Yeah. So again, as the man says, down in the descriptions, take it to the Kickstarter for It's a Horror Show, the found footage anthology. There you can see all the different reward tiers and stuff like that we're offering for the project. Some really cool stuff. Some partnerships with Wham Stand, and we're doing the lesser known zombie tier. Jackson actually made a poster that we're using for the anthology, so you can get a poster from Jackson, which is just it's so awesome and it really fits the theme. So check that out. In terms of following me, seeing what's happening with my comics and whatnot, all the socials at Jade Louder. Easiest way to find me, mostly on Instagram, but I'm on the Kara. I'm on the Blue Sky. I'm all over the place. And then beyond that, lesserknowncomics.com or jadelouder.com, and you find all the updates to what's going on.
Jeff, I've given you a lot of shit tonight. We all have. I apologize, but I love everything you're doing, brother. I love the traditional work I've been seeing. Absolutely incredible stuff. Tell them where to give you a follow, man, and tell them everything you got going on, what to be looking out for.
Yeah, both my handles, I think, on Blue Sky and Instagram are Jad Inks. So you can follow me on either of those, and I'm part of the Apollo City Comic Group now. So I might have some stuff posted out there to get to at some point when I get some new stuff ready and out. So,
Jackson, it's been awesome. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I know, hopefully, you didn't hate the show too bad. You'll come back on here again. Tell them where they can follow you and what you've got coming down the pike besides the anthology.
Sweet. Start off. Pleasure meeting you, Jerry. Love the vibe of this show. So absolute
Thanks,
pleasure
brother.
to be here. Handles, you can find me at roommate_Ru, RUHE. It's a pain in the ass to try to give handles verbally that way. Pretty much on Instagram. I've tried to make a Twitter. This is the first time ever actually hearing about what Blue Sky is. So
okay.
Check it out.
got that, yeah. But you can primarily find me on Instagram.
All right. Get out there and get on these handles, guys. Follow these incredible individuals. Hey, thanks for coming on, you guys. Best of luck with the campaign. Dan dropped in here. Good luck with the campaign, y'all. Appreciate everybody in chat. I was looking for better questions from you guys. Y'all really didn't put them to task, but hey, appreciate you joining in the chat. That's the show, you guys. Till next time, take care.
Thank you much.
Hey guys, you want to support the channel? Be sure and drop a